counterfeiting to that. So what we see happening at the beginning of these races dawning or being...
Which were genetically hijacked and perverted.
Right. We see that they did begin in origin with a legitimate pure seal. And then they were hijacked and it became something different.
It was bastardized.
Only they don't have any consciousness of it or any memory or anything like that. So this has been, it's called a wash. It's when your mind is swiped, when you have like thoughts that come in that are really important and critical, when you have data that comes in that you know is important, that you need to follow, and then you suddenly can't remember anything. It's based on washing your mind out. It is a loose term, but this is what's happened globally. This is what's happened internally. This is what's happened. I mean, when you get lucidity in experiences, this is why it's like gold. And that's why I say you have to try and be lucid on all levels. It's in your reality, cognition, dream state. You have to be as lucid as you can on every single level of existence, because that is where the gold is. That is where, if you interface with that consciously, you're going to be given gems about your entire story.
Well, the mystery about gold is it's linked to immortality and being a symbol of immortality and everlasting life, which is really quite interesting how it was a golden retriever that actually
came over to
actually came into the scene.
Yeah.
I felt that was symbolic. Do you want to go into what you experienced this morning and give a recount of that in regards to the war which is taking place with the reptilians in the MyLab role?
Actually, I was surprised at how much I retained without being washed. The first thing was I was in amongst others in the unit. Originally, we were all being transported. We were in our green camo with these strange backpacks and headgear with breathing devices, but they were not on us, so they were loose, and we were being transported. Now there were a bunch of us that we knew each other, but we were not allowed to be together. So it would seem like if we knew one another, you were definitely
going to be separated.
You were going to be separated, and you were going to be put with a unit where you didn't know any of the people, the men mostly. So while we were being transported to the location, and it was through in these. We're always being transported in similar vehicles of underground vehicles. I had looked down. I took note of what I was wearing, and I took note of what the type of backpack that we had, and then we got separated. So they put us in units, and then they engage us. So I was with this unit of guys. I was the only female, and they were like very typical southern boys, pretty young and Yahoo-ish. And we were dropped off to do a Operation Clean Sweep. And that's what they called it, Operation Clean Sweep. And we had been briefed.
Where were you traversing through?
Well, we were on the East Coast.
Was it underground?
No, it was above ground. Like, we were traveling underground, and then we were like... Surfaced. And then we were released in our units. We were pitted up against fighting reptilians. It appeared that we were placed in an area where there was a lot of catastrophe and a lot of deaths, mutilation, fluids. It was really horrifying in terms of the stench and what we were seeing. So as this catastrophe was taking place and all of these people were literally victims of the catastrophe, the reptilians were above ground. Once we finished battling the reptilians who were taking these survivors and doing terrible things with them, we were successful. We had killed them all in that location. I think all of our units were doing the same thing basically, and we were also rescuing the survivors. So we were taking them back. They were all in shock. They had horrible stench on their bodies, and it wasn't just the stench of everything that was happening. It was actually the stench of the reptilians, their secretions, and so it was a horrible smell. We had to take them back basically and they were all in shock. They all had to be their minds had to be erased from the entire event, but it didn't really matter because they were in shock anyway from their experiences they endured. But when we were removing them, my guys in my unit were making fun of them because of how they smelled. And these are all sexual secretions that are marking, like animalistic marking, which perforates through and into, and it becomes a part of your glands, and it's contamination. So they had to be actually put through this system of decontamination, and so did we. We had to go through the same thing, and the guys at my unit, they were just being, assholes about it. And they were being assholes about me because I had some of the smell on me, because when I ascertained the victims, I had to carry some of them out.
Yeah. So you made contact.
So I made contact with them, and it had the smell on me.
But did you have like gloves on or anything like that?
I was in I was completely full gear, but it didn't matter. It gets through everything. Like this is not a normal
excursion.
Yeah. Anyway, so my unit, they were making fun of me too, and I was really pissed off at them because I thought, you can't even go deep inside and pull them out. Like, you're keeping to the safe zones and doing your job, and you're bitching to me and you're telling me that, it got really crude, actually. I'm not going to go to how crude it got. So we had to go through our own decontamination. So we were being transported to contamination, but in the meantime, they had kept some of the hands of the reptilians that were severed, and we were using the
unconventional weapons.
Yeah, it wasn't guns. It was like a plasma type of. Yeah, and it could just sliced everything off like butter. It was just not a big deal at all. So they actually brought back the reptilian hand, and the guys were playing football with the amount of horrifying death that was around us, and what these people were surviving because the reptilians had come to the surface in areas where they were not witnessed on the whole. All of our units that we were separated and dispersed through a large territory. Each area, they were dealing with the same thing.
Okay, you mean a territory covering a state or a whole country?
A state.
A state.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts do you feel that was?
Well, I feel it was in the eastern area of the country.
Which country?
The U.S.
You're saying potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of people are going to scrutinise this, but so you feel that these reptilians were actually taking advantage of the calamitous situation, which is going on around
Totally.
Florida.
That's why we went in there.
Okay.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. And we know this is never going to be reported on any mainstream media,
but that was the reality cognition I had.
And you feel that the witnesses that would have been taken would have been memory swiped?
Oh no, they were all memory swiped. When they went to and through decontamination, they were all being medically swiped.
Can you tell me what you witnessed, where you would have...
And in fact...
where that would have been indicated?
Yeah, because you had, the military had these setups, these areas that they built them in the instant. So they'd come in, they put all these tents up and plastic hallways that you go through. And
What color were the tents?
well, the tents were all like, like mustard greeny
Okay.
color, and then they had all these hallways made out of plastic that you had to go through, and then they had rooms, decontamination rooms, where you were hosed, and then you were aired. The other thing is that we were put through decontamination, and we were put through medical swiping as well. So everybody was put through the same thing. Only the victims, it was much more vigorous. They were in a totally different part. And then we were on to the next mission, so we were geared up in white, all white,